I was counting down the days until I would marry Jessica, my girlfriend of 5 years. Our wedding was just 3 weeks away when she left for her bachelorette party in Las Vegas with her friends. Something felt off when she suddenly stopped responding to my texts for 24 hours straight. My stomach dropped when I accidentally glanced at her maid of honor's phone and discovered the painful truth that would change everything. Before I tell you about the decision that transformed my entire life after that night, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you believe loyalty is the foundation of true love. I first met Jessica at a company holiday party 5 years ago. She worked in the marketing department while I was in finance. What caught my attention immediately was not just her stunning beauty with those captivating green eyes and perfectly styled blonde hair, but her intelligence and wit. When she laughed at my admittedly terrible finance jokes, I knew I had to ask her out. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I remember being so nervous that I accidentally knocked over my water glass, soaking the tablecloth. Instead of being embarrassed, Jessica helped clean up and joked that at least I made a splash on our first date. That moment of kindness and humor made me fall for her even harder. The following dates were filled with long walks through the city park movie nights and conversations that lasted until sunrise. We discovered we both shared a love for travel classic rock music and had the same dreams about eventually settling in the suburbs with a couple of kids. Everything seemed perfect, like we were characters in a romantic comedy where everything just falls into place. After 2 years of dating, we decided to move in together. I found a spacious 2-bedroom apartment that was halfway between both our offices. Moving day was chaotic but fun, with our friends helping transport furniture and boxes. By evening, we collapsed on our couch, surrounded by unpacked boxes, eating takeout pizza and drinking cheap champagne. Jessica looked at me and said, "This feels like home already." That night, lying next to her in our new bed, I knew she was the woman I wanted to marry. Living together was better than I could have imagined. We quickly fell into comfortable routines. I would cook breakfast while Jessica made coffee. On weekends, we would tackle home improvement projects together or binge-watch shows on Netflix. Even our arguments were relatively minor and quickly resolved. We never went to bed angry, a rule we both strictly followed. After 3 years of living together, I decided it was time to propose. I worked extra hours and took on freelance finance consulting on the side to save up for the perfect ring. Jessica had always admired princess-cut diamonds, so I spent months researching jewelers until I found a stunning 2-carat diamond that cost more than my car. The expense was worth it, though. I wanted her to have a ring that matched her beauty and our love. I planned the proposal at the same Italian restaurant where we had our first date. I arranged with the manager to have the same table, even requesting the same waiter if possible. I was so nervous the entire day that I could barely focus at work. That evening, after our dessert arrived, I got down on one knee and pulled out the ring box. "Jessica," I said, my voice shaking slightly, "the past 5 years have been the happiest of my life. You make me a better man every day, and I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Ned. Yes, I will marry you," she exclaimed. The entire restaurant erupted in applause as I slipped the ring on her finger, and we sealed the moment with a kiss. It was perfect, just like I had imagined, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. The engagement high quickly gave way to wedding planning stress. Jessica came from a wealthy family who insisted on a large, elaborate wedding. What I had envisioned as a relatively simple ceremony with close friends and family quickly ballooned into a 300-guest extravaganza at an exclusive country club. The costs mounted rapidly, from the $5,000 wedding cake to the $15,000 flower arrangements. While my salary was decent, it was not enough to cover these expenses. Jessica contributed what she could from her marketing job, but her parents had made it clear they expected me to pay for most of it, as per tradition. I ended up taking out a substantial loan from the bank, convincing myself that starting our marriage with debt was worth it to give Jessica her dream wedding. As the wedding date approached, the stress began to take its toll on our relationship. Jessica became increasingly critical and particular about every detail. When the invitations arrived with a slightly different shade of cream than she had ordered, She spent an entire evening crying and made me drive to the printer the next morning to demand they be redone. I told myself this was normal bride behavior, that she was just under pressure to make everything perfect. Looking back, I should have noticed the other changes too. Jessica had reconnected with her college friends, a group of single women who frequented clubs and bars most weekends. At first I thought nothing of it when she started joining them more often. Everyone deserves time with their friends, and I trusted her completely. But then she started coming home, later and later. When I would text to check if she was okay, responses would come hours later with excuses about poor cell reception in the club or her phone battery dying. When I suggested video calling during these nights out just to say a quick hello, she would claim it was too loud, or that her friends would make fun of her for being that girl who cannot go one night without talking to her fiancé. Then came the password change on her phone. For years we had known each other's passwords, not because we snooped, but because of practical reasons like answering calls when the other was driving. One day I picked up her phone to check the time and found it locked with a new password. When I asked about it, Jessica claimed it was for work security reasons. I accepted the explanation, pushing down the uneasiness I felt. 3 weeks before our wedding, Jessica announced she wanted to have her bachelorette party in Las Vegas. Her maid of honor, Amanda, had arranged everything, booking a suite at a luxury hotel on the Strip for a 3-day weekend. I was surprised by the timing, cutting it so close to the wedding, but Jessica insisted it was the only time everyone could make it. "Are you sure a wild Vegas weekend is a good idea so close to the wedding?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "What if someone gets sick or injured? Or what about the cost? We are already stretching our budget with the wedding." "Do not worry so much, Ned," Jessica replied, kissing my cheek. "We will be careful, and Amanda got us some great hotel deals. Besides, it is tradition. Every bride needs one last hurrah with her girls before settling down." The phrasing made me uncomfortable. One last hurrah before settling down. As if marriage to me was some kind of prison sentence she needed a final taste of freedom from. I pushed the thought away, telling myself I was overthinking things. The day before she left, I pulled Amanda aside at our apartment while Jessica was packing. Amanda had been Jessica's best friend since college and was serving as her maid of honor. While we were never particularly close, I always appreciated her straightforward nature. "Keep an eye on her for me, will you?" I asked quietly. "She has been so stressed with wedding planning. I just want to make sure she has fun but does not go overboard." Amanda gave me a reassuring smile. "Do not worry, Ned. I will make sure your bride comes back in one piece. We are just going to have some innocent fun, spas, shopping, maybe a show or two. Nothing crazy." I wanted to believe her, but something in her expression did not quite match her words. Still, what could I do? I could not forbid Jessica from going without coming across as a controlling jerk. The next morning, I drove Jessica to the airport, where she met up with her 5 friends for the flight. As I hugged her goodbye, I felt a strange sense of foreboding, like I was letting go of something precious that I might not get back. "Call me every night before bed," I asked. Of course, she promised, giving me a quick peck on the lips. "I will miss you." As I watched her disappear through security, I tried to shake off my concerns. I was being paranoid. In 3 weeks, we would be married, and these insecurities would fade away. The first night of Jessica's trip, everything seemed normal. She sent me a few pictures of their hotel room with its impressive view of the Las Vegas Strip, followed by a group photo of the girls dressed up for dinner. Around 11 p.m., she texted that they were heading to a club, but promised to call when she got back to the hotel. That call never came, but I received a short text at 3 a.m. "Having so much fun. Too tired to call. Love you, talk tomorrow." I was disappointed but understood. Vegas was a city that never slept, and it was natural for them to get caught up in the excitement. I replied with a simple, "Have fun, love you too," and went to sleep, pushing away the nagging worry in the back of my mind. The next day was when things started to feel wrong. I sent a good morning text that went unanswered. By noon, I tried calling, but the call went straight to voicemail. I sent another text asking if everything was okay. No response. By evening, my concern had grown into genuine worry. I tried calling again, this time leaving a voicemail. "Hey, Jess, just checking in to make sure everything is okay. You have not responded all day, and I am getting a little worried. Please call me back when you can." I also tried reaching out to the other girls in the group, sending casual texts, asking if they were having fun, hoping someone would respond and ease my mind. None did. It was as if the entire group had fallen off the grid. That night I barely slept. My mind raced with possibilities, most of them innocent explanations. Maybe they were at a day club where phones were not allowed near the pool. Maybe they had gone on a Grand Canyon tour with no cell reception. Maybe Jessica's phone had been stolen or damaged. But darker thoughts crept in too. What if she was hurt? What if she had gotten too drunk and something bad had happened? By the morning of the third day, I was seriously considering calling the Las Vegas police to check on them when my phone finally buzzed with a text from Jessica, sorry for going MIA. Phone died and lost my charger. Buying a new one today. Miss you. The message should have been reassuring, but something about it felt off. In 5 years, Jessica had never let her phone die completely. She was almost obsessive about keeping it charged. My relief at hearing from her was short-lived as she once again became unresponsive after that single text. By evening, I was back to pacing our apartment, torn between anger and concern. Then unexpectedly, my doorbell rang around 8 p.m. It was Amanda, who was supposed to be in Las Vegas until the following day with the others. Amanda, what are you doing back early? I asked, surprised to see her standing at my door, looking tired and uncomfortable. Flight change, she said vaguely, not quite meeting my eyes. The others are still there, but I had some work stuff come up that could not wait. I invited her in, offering her a drink, which she accepted gratefully. As we sat in the living room, I tried to casually ask about their trip. So how was Vegas, Jessica? Has been pretty quiet, barely texting or calling. Amanda shifted uncomfortably. Oh, you know Vegas. It is wild. We have been so busy with activities, barely had time to check our phones. What kind of activities? I pressed, noticing how she avoided eye contact. Spa treatments, shopping, pool parties, the usual bachelorette stuff. She replied suddenly, very interested in the ice cubes in her glass. We chatted for another 15 minutes, with me trying to extract more information and Amanda giving vague, evasive answers. Finally, she excused herself to use the bathroom, leaving her phone on the coffee table. I had never snooped through someone's phone before. I considered myself above that kind of invasion of privacy. But as I sat there staring at Amanda's phone, a notification banner slid across her locked screen. Jessica, make sure Ned does not suspect anything. Delete the pics from the group chat. My blood ran cold. Before I could process what I was doing, I had picked up Amanda's phone. To my surprise, it was not locked, probably because she had been using it just before setting it down. With shaking hands, I opened her messaging app and found the group chat titled Vegas Bachelorette. What I saw shattered my world in an instant. There were dozens of photos and videos of Jessica with a man I had never seen before, a tall, muscular guy who appeared to be a stripper or dancer from one of the shows. In some pictures, they were dancing closely in a club. In others, they were kissing passionately. The worst was a short video where Jessica was sitting on his lap in what appeared to be a hotel room, to her dress hiked up, saying to the camera, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right, girls?" before turning back to kiss him. The timestamps showed these were from the previous night, around the time Jessica had claimed her phone was dead. The accompanying texts were even more devastating. Jessica, Mike is taking me back to his place tonight. Do not wait up, Amanda. Are you sure about this? What about Ned, Jessica? Ned will never know. I deserve one last night of freedom before I am stuck with him forever. Besides, Mike said he has friends. If any of you want to join, another friend. You are wild, girl. But be careful, Jessica. I have been careful for 5 years. Tonight I want to be reckless. I felt physically ill, like someone had punched me in the stomach. The room seemed to spin as I scrolled through more messages, each one worse than the last. Jessica complaining about how boring our sex life was. Jessica joking about marrying me for financial stability while keeping her options open. The girls discussing how to make sure I never found out, with Amanda specifically tasked with damage control if I got suspicious. I was so absorbed in this nightmare that I did not hear the bathroom door open. Amanda's voice startled me back to reality. What the hell do you think you are doing? she demanded, seeing her phone in my hands. Then, noting my expression, her anger shifted to something like pity. "Oh God, you saw." I looked up at her, unable to find words for a moment. When I finally spoke, my voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "She cheated on me. 3 weeks before our wedding, she cheated." Amanda sighed and sat down heavily on the couch. "Look, Ned, it is not what you think. It was just one stupid drunk night. A final fling. It does not mean anything." One night I scrolled up in the chat and held up the phone, showing earlier messages. "She planned this. She talked about meeting up with this Mike guy before you even left for Vegas." Amanda had the decency to look ashamed. "Okay, so they were flirting online a bit before. He is a dancer at one of the clubs, and Jessica found him on Instagram when we were planning where to go. But it is still just a meaningless hookup. It does not erase 5 years of relationship. Did you know this was going to happen when you promised me you would look after her? When you told me it was just going to be spa days and shopping?" The betrayal from Amanda stung almost as much as Jessica's infidelity. I knew she was flirting with him, yes. But I did not think she would actually go through with sleeping with him, Amanda claimed, though. I did not believe her for a second. "Look, Ned, people make mistakes, especially right before marriage when the pressure is on. Jessica loves you. This was just her getting cold feet and acting out." I stood up, needing to move to do something with the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Cold feet. She had sex with another man while wearing my engagement ring. She laughed about it with all of you. She called marrying me being stuck with me forever. She did not mean that. She was drunk and showing off for the girls. Amanda argued weakly. "Get out," I said quietly. "Ned, please, let us talk about this rationally. Do not throw away your relationship over one mistake. One mistake would be accidentally kissing someone at a club. This was deliberate. She planned it, executed it, and then lied to me about it. And you all helped her. Now get out of my apartment before I say something I will regret." Amanda gathered her purse and headed for the door, turning back one last time. "Just promise me you will talk to Jessica before you do anything drastic. Do not make any decisions while you are angry." I did not respond, just closed the door firmly behind her. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a generous glass of whiskey, and sat in the dark, trying to figure out what to do with the broken pieces of what I thought was my perfect relationship. Back in our apartment, the pain hit me in waves. I found myself staring at our engagement photos on the wall, wondering if her smile had been genuine, or if she had been thinking of an escape plan even then. The 2-carat diamond ring had cost me nearly $20,000, money I had saved for months. Now it felt like a monument to my own naivety. I picked up a framed photo of us from a vacation in Hawaii last year. We looked so happy. My arm around her waist, her head resting on my shoulder as the sunset painted the sky behind us. Had she been faithful then? Had there been others before this Mike person? Every memory was now tainted with doubt. Anger surged through me suddenly, and for a moment I considered smashing the frame against the wall. Instead, I carefully placed it face down in a drawer. I would not become the stereotypical spurned lover, destroying property in a rage. That was not who I was. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Please do not tell Jessica I showed you anything. Let her explain first." The audacity was almost impressive. I did not bother responding. What hurt beyond the physical betrayal was the callousness. Stuck with him forever. Is that how Jessica saw our future together? As a prison sentence. After 5 years together, countless I love yous, and all our shared dreams and plans. Was that how little our relationship meant to her? Then there was the financial aspect. I had spent nearly my entire savings on the engagement ring. I had taken out a $45,000 loan to pay for the wedding. The country club venue required a non-refundable deposit of $15,000. Our honeymoon flights to Bali were non-refundable. The financial devastation would be almost as painful as the emotional one. I was still sitting in the dark when I heard keys in the door the next evening. Jessica was home a day early, just like Amanda. My heart raced as the door opened and the lights flicked on. "Ned, why are you sitting in the dark?" Jessica asked, dropping her bags by the door. She looked tired but happy. a slight tan on her face from the Vegas Sunday. I studied her silently. Did she look like someone racked with guilt? No. She looked relaxed, content even. There were no signs of the inner turmoil that should accompany such a massive betrayal. How was Vegas, I asked, keeping my voice neutral, giving her the chance to come clean voluntarily. Jessica launched into an edited version of the trip, talking about spa treatments, shopping on the Strip, and seeing a Cirque du Soleil show. Not once did she mention clubs, dancers, or staying out all night. She claimed her phone had indeed died, and she had forgotten her charger, which was why she had been so out of touch. When I asked about Amanda's early return, she casually mentioned a work emergency, the same lie Amanda had told. As she spoke, unpacking her suitcase and chatting as if everything was normal, I made a decision. I would not confront her, not yet. I needed more information needed to understand the full scope of her betrayal before I decided how to respond. "I missed you," she said, sitting on my lap and kissing me. It took every ounce of self-control not to recoil. All I could think about was that this was the same mouth that had been kissing Mike just days earlier. "Missed you too," I lied, forcing a smile. "So no wild parties or crazy stories to share," Jessica laughed a little too quickly. "Nothing worth mentioning. Just girl stuff, you know how it is." And in that moment, watching her lie so effortlessly to my face, something inside me hardened. This woman whom I had loved more than anything had not only betrayed me physically, but was now betraying me again with every false word. The Jessica I thought I knew would never do this. Which meant the Jessica I thought I knew had never existed. The next morning I called in sick to work and contacted a private investigator I found online. It was expensive, but I needed to know if this Vegas incident was a one-time thing or part of a pattern. I provided him with Jessica's information and asked him to look into her communications with this Mike person, as well as any other suspicious contacts. While waiting for the investigator's results, I secretly transferred most of our joint savings into my personal account. It was money I had primarily contributed anyway, earmarked for our wedding and honeymoon. I felt no guilt about protecting it now. Jessica seemed to suspect nothing, continuing with wedding preparations as if everything was fine. She asked me to finalize the seating chart and confirm arrangements with the band. I did so mechanically, playing my part in this charade while waiting for more information. 3 days later, the investigator called with his findings, which were worse than I had imagined. Not only had Jessica been in contact with Mike for months before the bachelorette party, but there were also texts to and from 2 other men over the past year, all flirtatious and some explicitly sexual. She had met up with at least one of them when she claimed to be working late. Even more hurtful were the text conversations with her friends, including Amanda, where she complained about me. I was too predictable, not ambitious enough, not exciting in bed. She joked about upgrading after a few years of marriage once my career had advanced. In one particularly cutting exchange, she told Amanda she was marrying me because I was a safe bet financially and because she was tired of dating, but she was not ruling out having fun on the side. The investigator also uncovered something I had not expected. Jessica had been secretly consulting with a lawyer about how to protect her assets in case of divorce. This was particularly ironic, given that I was the one with the higher income and more savings. Armed with this information, I knew I could not go through with the wedding, but rather than simply calling it off, I began formulating a different plan. Jessica had humiliated me behind my back. Perhaps it was petty, but I wanted her to experience some of that humiliation herself. I started by securing copies of all the evidence, both from Amanda's phone and from the investigator. Then I began making calls, starting with the venue. I told them there was a change of plans, not a cancellation, which allowed me to avoid the topic of refunds for now. Next, I contacted our closest friends and family members, telling them there was a surprise change of venue for the wedding and swearing them to secrecy, claiming it was a special surprise for Jessica. In reality, I was organizing a very different kind of gathering, one where the truth would finally come to light. As the original wedding day approached, my plan was set in motion. I had rented a different venue, a smaller event space downtown that had fortunately had a cancellation. I had invited all our wedding guests, asking them to keep the location change a secret from Jessica as a surprise. Most assumed it was a romantic gesture. The morning of what should have been our wedding day dawned bright and clear. Jessica woke up excited, kissing me, before heading off to the bridal suite at a hotel, where she would get ready with her bridesmaids. I had allowed all the regular wedding preparations to continue: the hair and makeup team, the photographer, everything. I dressed in my wedding tuxedo, a custom-tailored black suit that had cost me $3,000. Looking at myself in the mirror, I felt strangely calm. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it was overshadowed by a sense of resolution. Today, one way or another, this chapter of my life would end. At the agreed time, I arrived at the hotel to pick up Jessica. She looked stunning in her white gown, her hair and makeup perfect. For a brief moment, seeing her like this, I almost faltered. This was the woman I had wanted to spend my life with. But then I remembered the texts, the photos, the videos, and my resolve hardened once more. "You look beautiful," I said honestly. "You look pretty handsome yourself," she replied, straightening my bow tie. "Ready to get married?" "More than you know," I answered. The drive to the church was quiet. Jessica too nervous and excited to talk much. When we pulled up to the church where we were supposed to get married, I asked her to wait in the car for a moment, claiming I needed to check on something. I returned 5 minutes later. "There is a slight problem with the church. A pipe burst this morning, and they have had to close the building." Jessica's face fell. "What? No. What are we going to do? All our guests will be arriving soon." "Do not worry," I assured her. "I have already taken care of it. I found an alternative venue and redirected everyone there. It is not far from here." "You are amazing," she said, relief washing over her face. "Most men would panic, but you always know how to handle a crisis." If only she knew what kind of crisis was actually unfolding. 20 minutes later, we arrived at the new venue. I helped Jessica out of the car, careful not to let her dress drag on the ground. As we walked into the building, she squeezed my hand excitedly. "I cannot believe we are finally doing this," she whispered. "Neither can I," I replied truthfully. When we entered the main hall, Jessica looked confused. Instead of being set up for a wedding ceremony with an aisle and altar, the room was arranged more like a presentation space, with rows of chairs all facing a small stage with a podium and large projection screen. "What is this?" she asked, looking around at our assembled friends and family, all dressed in their wedding finery but looking slightly confused themselves. "Where is the altar? The flowers?" "There has been a change of plans," I said, my voice carrying in the now quiet room. "Everyone, thank you for coming. I know you all expected to witness Jessica and I exchange vows today, but instead, I have something else to share with you." Jessica stared at me, confusion turning to alarm. "Ned, what are you doing? This is not funny." "No, it is not funny at all," I agreed, gently guiding her toward the stage. "In fact, it is quite serious. You see, everyone here loves us and has supported our relationship. They have traveled from across the country to celebrate our love and commitment. I think they deserve to know the truth about that commitment." "What are you talking about?" Jessica hissed, trying to pull away from me, but I kept a firm, gentle grip on her arm. "Jessica, would you like to tell everyone about your trip to Las Vegas? Or should I?" The color drained from her face. "This is not the time or place for whatever you think is happening. We can talk about this in private, like you talked about me in private with your friends, telling them you were stuck with me. Or perhaps like the private conversations you had with Mike for months before your bachelorette party, planning your rendezvous." Gasps, murmurs spread through the crowd. Jessica's parents, sitting in the front row, looked stricken. "Please stop," Jessica whispered, tears beginning to form in her eyes. 3 weeks ago, I continued addressing the crowd while Jessica was supposedly having an innocent bachelorette party in Las Vegas. She was actually meeting up with a man she had been communicating with for months. I have the evidence right here. I pressed a button on a remote, and the screen behind us lit up with screenshots of Jessica's text conversations, carefully edited to remove the most explicit content, but clearly showing her intentions and actions. More gasps filled the room. This was not a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. I continued, my voice steady, despite the chaos in my heart. It was planned, deliberate, and from what I have since discovered, Not the first time. Jessica was openly crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I can explain, she sobbed, though she made no attempt to actually offer an explanation. I could have just called off the wedding, I said, now speaking directly to her. I could have disappeared from your life without a word. But after 5 years together, after all the promises we made, I thought you at least owed me and everyone here the truth. I turned back to the stunned audience. I am sorry to have brought you all here under false pretenses, but I could not stand the thought of everyone believing I had simply got cold feet, or worse, that Jessica had been wronged somehow when I called off the wedding. The truth is painful, but it is still better than a lie. Jessica's father stood up, his face, a mask of disappointment and anger, though I could not tell if it was directed at me, his daughter, or the situation in general. Is this true, Jessica? He demanded. Jessica looked around the room at the shocked and judgmental faces of our friends and family, and finally nodded, almost imperceptibly. Yes, she whispered. But it was a mistake. It did not mean anything. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, or saying something hurtful in the heat of an argument, I replied. What you did was a choice, multiple choices made over and over again. I turned back to our guests. There will be no wedding today. Instead, I have arranged for food and drinks in the next room. Please feel free to stay and commiserate or celebrate whatever feels right to you. As for me, I will be starting a new chapter of my life, one that hopefully includes honesty and genuine love. With that, I walked off the stage, leaving Jessica standing there alone in her wedding dress. Mascara streaked down her face, the evidence of her betrayal still projected on the screen behind her. The following months were difficult, untangling our lives and dealing with the financial aftermath of a canceled wedding. The venue refused to refund our deposit, and many of the vendors kept their fees despite the cancellation. The loan I had taken out for the wedding became a burden I would carry for years. But slowly I began to rebuild. I joined a support group for people who had experienced infidelity, finding comfort in sharing my story and hearing others. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship with Jessica. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion and raise that helped offset some of the financial damage. 6 months after the wedding that never happened, I sold the engagement ring, using the money to take a solo trip to Europe, something I had always wanted to do but Jessica had never been interested in. Standing at the top of the Eiffel Tower watching the sunset over Paris, I realized I felt something I had not felt in a long time: peace. A year to the day after the non-wedding, I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop. She had lost weight and looked tired, but still beautiful in her way. We made awkward small talk, and before leaving, she apologized again, claiming she had been in therapy and understood now how deeply she had hurt me. I forgive you, I told her, surprised to find I actually meant it. Not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying around anger and resentment was only hurting me. Are you seeing anyone? She asked hesitantly. I am, I replied. Someone who values honesty and respect as much as I do. As I walked away, I felt the final weight lift from my shoulders. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but in rebuilding myself, I had become stronger, wiser, and ultimately happier. Sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted your partner privately, or do you think public accountability was justified? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming betrayal and finding strength in difficult situations. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this story, share it with them. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from someone who does not value you. Until next time, take care of yourself and your heart.